Hello, everybody. I think we are live. Super excited for today's session on impromptu speaking. Hi, everyone. If you don't know who I am, my name is Maria Malik, and I help corporate professionals excel at impromptu speaking, get over their fear of public speaking, and give amazing presentations. So if that is something that you're interested in or something that you want to get better at, then you're in the right place. So first of all, happy Monday. It's honestly, I had a very tough weekend. I kind of posted about it. Basically, long story short, somebody stole my purse and it had pretty much my whole life in there. When I say my whole life, I mean my whole life. So, a very stressful weekend for me, but how was your weekend? Please let me know in the chat box how your weekend went. And hopefully, it was a little bit better than mine because mine was not so fun. So, please let me know how was your weekend? And also let me know if you are watching the recorded version or if you are watching the live version. Hi, Elia. How are you doing? I have lots of people here from LinkedIn and I have some people here from YouTube as well. I have someone here from Germany, from Qatar. Hola. I have Roy. Hi, Roy. How's it going? Lots of people here watching. And if you don't know, again, we will be talking about impromptu speaking. So I have lots of tips for you guys and stuff that you can actually start implementing right away. So stay tuned to see what that is. Before we continue, of course, a few quick announcements. So last week, I told you guys that this will be the last week that I am doing one-on-one coaching, one-on-one online consultations. So a lot of you reached out to me and said you weren't able to get a spot. So what I decided to do was I'm extending it for this week as well. If you are someone that wants to get better at public speaking, you want to get over that fear, you want to be better at impromptu speaking, and you are ready to invest and commit in becoming better at it, then please go ahead, go to my profile and book a consultation with me. Last week was supposed to be the last week, but so many of you reached out to me and said you weren't able to get a slot. So this is the absolute last time I'm doing it. I just don't have the capacity anymore, you guys, but I have a lot of other great stuff coming for you. So please, if you are interested, last chance, book a consultation. If you are ready to put in 6 hard weeks to get better at public speaking. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Now that that's done, let's talk about impromptu speaking. So do you guys know what impromptu speaking is? Hi, Philip. Hi, Hamad. What do you think impromptu speaking is? Okay, let me know in the chat box. I'm watching the chat, so I'm going to try to reply back as much as I can. For those of you that don't know, impromptu speaking is when you have to get up in front of an audience or you have to speak without any type of preparation. How scary is that, right? You get asked a question, you haven't prepared for it. You have no idea what you're going to say. Now, what do? Everybody's watching you. You're at work and it's going to count, right? You can't just say, I don't know, sorry. Can we ask someone else? Fortunately, we can't do that. That looks really bad. So I'm going to give you guys 3 tips today on how you can get better at impromptu speaking and make sure that you give the best possible answer when you are caught off guard. Okay. Now, when it comes to impromptu speaking, there is so much that we can cover, but these are 3 things that I know you can take away right away. Okay. And I know you can implement them as soon as possible. So, hi from Ethiopia. Hello. So let's get started, okay? The first thing that I want to teach you when it comes to impromptu speaking, number 1, the most important thing, and this is going to help you a lot, and I'll explain why. When you get asked a question, okay, let's say you're in a meeting and somebody throws a question your way, your boss, or maybe it's that coworker that doesn't like you so much, and they throw a really hard question your way. What's the first thing that you do? What do you guys think? Typically, we get really nervous and scared, like, oh no, I don't know the answer. I don't know. So what do you guys typically do? Let me know in the chat box what happens when somebody asks you a question on the fly, you don't know the answer, you don't know how you're going to answer. What happens, right? Tell me what goes on in here. What happens? I'll tell you what happens to me when somebody asks me a question I don't know. I totally freak out, right? I'm like, oh no, gosh, how am I going to answer this, right? So here is a quick tip for you. When you get asked a question, and when you get asked a question that you don't know the answer to, the first thing that you need to do is repeat the question. That's your first tip, okay? Repeat the question. So let's say, yep, or you can say, thank you for asking the question. That's good as well. But before that, before you even say that, I would repeat the question. Okay, so for example, I asked you guys, what is impromptu speaking, right? First thing that I would do is, okay, so what is impromptu speaking? Well, first of all, thank you for that question. Let me see how I can answer that for you. Okay, repeat the question first. When you repeat the question, it's going to do a couple of things. The first thing that it's going to do is it's going to give your brain a signal that, okay, wait, this is the question, right? So you're going to give your brain another chance to make sure they heard and understood the question, okay? And the other thing that happens is this is going to give you that few seconds. Sometimes that's all you need, those few extra seconds to come up with a well-formulated answer, okay? So always, always, always repeat the question, okay? Anytime somebody throws a question your way, repeat the question. You don't necessarily have to repeat it out loud as well. You can just repeat it in your mind, but it's better to do it out loud. Your brain's listening to every word you're saying. So if you can, repeat it out loud before anything, okay? That's the first thing. Now, let's move on to the second thing. Now, you've been asked a question. Let's say you have a few minutes to answer the question, right? Most of the time when we get asked a question that we don't know the answer to or we haven't prepared for, we freak out and we either say too much or we say too little. Okay? You're usually on one end of the spectrum, either too much or too little, right? You want to be somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to teach you how to be in the middle. Manmeet says, answer always in the question. It is, a lot of the times it is. So now let's talk about that, right? It's in the middle. This is where I want you to be. So how do you make sure that you just say enough, and how do you make sure that there's an actual structure to when you're speaking, right? You don't want to be all over the place. So many times I hear people and I'm like listening to them and I was like, where are you going with this? Did you even answer the question? Wait, what? Right? Things don't make sense sometimes because when you're panicking and when you're not prepared, you're all over the place or you just don't know what to say at all. So here's the tip for you guys, okay? And this is called the power of 3. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again. The power of 3. What is the power of 3? What do you guys think the power of 3 is? Let me know in the comment section. Any idea? It's literally in the actual question. Power of 3. It's in the statement. What do you guys think power of 3 is? I'd love to know. Please drop it in the chat box and let me know what you think it is. It's not an easy one, I know, and it might be hard to explain, but I'm going to try my best. Now, the power of 3 is basically 3, right? That's the magic number, 3. Anytime you're speaking, right? If you say things in 3, that's a great question. I'd like to answer it by saying point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. Okay? The reason why the power of 3 works so well when you're speaking is because, number 1, it helps you give that structure. Okay, now you know I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about the second thing, and then I'm going to talk about the third thing, right? So with the power of 3, the way that our brains work, right? 3 becomes a pattern. Power of 3 is 9. That's a good one. So when we speak in 3s, right, our brain now thinks, okay, this is a pattern. Okay, so it's easier to understand. Okay, not just for ourselves as a speaker, but it's easier for the audience to also understand. For example, what if I told you, all right, you guys, today for the impromptu speaking, we're going to be talking about 10 things to get better at impromptu speaking. Now, in hindsight, that sounds great because you're like, okay, I'm going to learn so much. But if I sat here and said 10 things, you guys, we're going to learn 10 things, that's a lot of stuff, right? Right away, your brain is like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. How am I going to process all of that, right? It looks like marketing. Exactly. 3's always used in marketing. Look around, you guys. You guys are going to see the power of 3 everywhere, and it's done strategically. This is not an accident. Okay. So if I told you, let's go back to that. So if I told you we're going to learn about 10 things today, right away, your brain is going to be like, oh no, information overload. I can't handle it. It's too much. Okay. That's why you need to always say 3 things. Okay. Today, I'm going to give you guys three tips, right? You guys will actually remember these 3 tips because it's not too much. It's not too little either, right? I'm giving you guys just enough for your brain to be able to process, to remember, and to actually be able to use this. Okay. So let's say somebody asks you a question. Let's take a very basic question, right? Someone asks you, Hamad, can you please tell me what you are passionate about? Okay. I'm going to say, let's say I'm answering this question. I'm going to say, okay, so what am I passionate about? Remember, I'm repeating the question. That's the first thing I want to do. What am I passionate about? And then I can think of something, oh, okay, I'm passionate about, let's say, makeup. So I'm going to answer this question by saying, that's a great question. What am I passionate about? I am passionate about makeup, and here are the 3 reasons why. Okay, so now I'm going to get into my 3 reasons. Okay, the first reason is because it's a form of art for me. The second reason why I'm so passionate about makeup is because it makes me feel good. The third reason why I'm so passionate about makeup is because it's a lot of fun, right? And that is why I'm so passionate about makeup. Now, I've given you guys 3 things. That was so easy to follow along, right? Obviously, you can throw in examples, stories, talk about so much more when you have the time. But always structure your answer in 3s. You have your introduction, you have your point 1, point 2, point 3, and then your outro. Think of it like an essay, right? Every time you write an essay, you've written an essay during university or at school, you have your introduction. Then you have your point 1, point 2, point 3, and lastly, you have your conclusion or your why am I telling you this thing, right? Think of it that way. So you can start speaking that way too. Anytime you get asked a question on the fly and you don't know what to say. The other great thing with the power of 3 is that it's just perfect. Okay, now what do I mean by that? How is it perfect? It's perfect in the sense that you could use it for anything, right? It doesn't matter what type of question you're asked, you can always use this structure, the structure of 3, your intro, 3 points, and your outro. You can always use it for any question, for any type of question, right? If you guys have an example, right, let me know in the chat box. I don't think I've ever been asked a question that I can't reply in 3s. Okay, that's why I remember that, you guys, the power of 3. It's very, very strong. Look all around you, right? What about this public service announcement? Stop, drop, and roll. There's a reason why they do it this way. They know people will remember it better. Stop, drop, and roll, right? They know kids will remember it better. They know adults will remember it better. It's universal, right? Look everywhere else. The power of 3, it's real. It's everywhere. And some of us don't even notice it, but it's there. So that was my second point for you guys. Okay, let's move on to the last point. Okay, the first point, remember, question. Ask the question again. Second point was the power of 3. Now let's move on to Parag, what if you were lost in the jungle? That's my favorite question to ask people, right? So let's say, Parag, let's say somebody asked me that, right? And by the way, this is a question that I like to throw it in people's way just because everybody answers it so differently, right? Let's take a second before we move on to the third point. How would you answer that, right? If you were lost in the jungle, what would you do? First of all, right away, I'm going to say, okay, so if I was lost in the jungle, what would I do? By the way, that's a very interesting question. I've never really thought about that before. So now that I'm thinking about it, I would say I can actually think of 3 things that I would do right away. The first thing that I would do is I would go look for shelter. I'm in a jungle, so I know that there's going to be wild animals. There's going to be so many crazy things I'm going to have to deal with, so I need shelter. That's the first thing I'm going to do. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go look for food, right? Ray agrees with me, hunt for food. I'm going to be hungry. So I'm going to have to make sure that I have food to eat so I can survive and be strong and fight off anyone that I need to, any animal, or I don't know what's going to come my way. So definitely go find food. The third thing that I would do is see if I can find a lion cub and make it my friend. I would definitely try to make a friend in the jungle, because I know that will help me in the long run. And also I won't be bored and it'll be fun actually having a friend there, right? That's what I would do. So again, the 3 things that I would do if I was lost in the jungle is number 1, find shelter. Number 2, I would go ahead and look for food. And 3, I would try to make a friend. And that's what I would do, right? Now, I hope you guys noticed the first thing that I did was I repeated the question. I even commented on the question. Oh, that's a question I've never been asked before, right? Or I can look for Tarzan, right? You're right. That'd be fun. Find Tarzan. And then the third thing again was that, so I did the 3 questions, right? I answered in 3s, and then my outro. Now let's talk about outro for a second, because I know a lot of people don't realize how important your outro is. During your outro, what you should be doing is summarizing. Remember, we talked essay style, summarize. What are some of the things that I talked about, right? People have such short attention spans nowadays. You need to remind them. So again, the things that I would do is 1, 2, 3, right? The more you can remind people what you're talking about, or even repeat the question again, the better, because we forget. People are so distracted nowadays. You have your phone, you have so many things going on, especially online. There's like a million distractions. I have 20 tabs open right now, right? A million distractions. So the more you can remind people what you're talking about again, the better. Okay? All right. Give me a thumbs up if you feel like this is useful and that you've learned something so far. So let me know in the chat box, thumbs up, or say, yes, Maria, I learned something today. I'm going to go apply this right away in my next meeting, or next time somebody asks me a question that I'm not prepared for. Let me know in the chat box. Let's move on to the third thing, the third point that I have for you guys. Now, the third point that I have for you is to practice impromptu speaking. Like everything else in the world, practice makes perfect, right? You can have all the tools, you can have all the techniques, you can have all the tips in the world, but if you don't practice it, you're not going to get better at it. Agreed? I think we can all agree on that, right? There are some naturally talented people out there. They'll just learn something once and be able to execute it so well, but 90% of us are not like that. So we need to practice. How do you practice impromptu speaking? Any idea? Any idea, you guys? How would you practice impromptu speaking? So impromptu speaking is actually something that I do in my program once a week. Once a week, I get all my clients together and we do rapid fire rounds. I throw a question your way, and then you go ahead and answer the question. You have 2 minutes, and then we analyze your answer, right? Now, the easiest thing to do is literally Google impromptu speech questions. Okay. So go ahead and Google impromptu speech questions. You're going to have a list of like a million questions that come up about various different topics. Gail, perfect. Give yourself some questions and try answering them. Exactly. Try answering random questions daily, Parag says. Exactly. You want to practice these, right? Where do you get these questions from? If you can come up with questions on your own, great. But I want you to start thinking outside the box, because the more you talk about different topics, right? The more you talk about different types of things, the better you'll get at it. So go online, just Google impromptu speech questions. Okay. It's going to give you a list of questions. Save that list. Once a day, answer a question. Okay. Answer that question and then analyze it. It's not enough to just practice something. You could be practicing something wrong. What you want to do is practice, analyze, and perfect. Okay? Join Toastmasters, Troy says. Yep, I love Toastmasters, you guys. If that is something that is going to help you, then yes, join Toastmasters. That's going to help you. Okay? So you need to be practicing these answers, and You know how you should be doing it? Don't just stand in front of a mirror and practice it, right? Then how are you going to analyze your answer? We all have cell phones, right? Go ahead and record yourself. Record yourself practicing the answer and then watch it. If you are uncomfortable watching your videos, say yes in the comment section. I want to see how many of you guys are uncomfortable watching yourself, and that's why you just don't like to record yourself or make videos. I was extremely, extremely uncomfortable when I first started my YouTube channel. Every time I'd be watching it, I'd be like, oh, that feels weird. So if you are uncomfortable watching yourself on camera, say yes. Say yes. Hi, Saad. I am doing well. Yes. Casey says yes. Saad says big yes. Noopy says yes. Gail says yes. Hamad says, how do you impress your parents? We'll get into that some other time. Yes. Dragana says yes. Vikas says yes. Somewhat uncomfortable, Rob says, right? It's that weird feeling of watching yourself and you're like, oh my God, I didn't know I sounded like that, or I didn't know that that's what I looked like. Angie says yes. Pavan says yes. It's very uncomfortable watching yourself. Now, here's the thing. If you feel uncomfortable watching yourself, your audience, right? Whoever your audience is also going to feel weird, okay? And it's not because of what you're saying, but it's going to be because of your energy that you're putting out, okay? People can sense when you're not confident. They can sense when you're thinking. They can see it. They can literally see everything, body language, right? So important. So that's why I say record yourself, watch it, ask yourself a couple of questions. How do I feel? Right? If you're cringing, that means anyone else that's going to watch it is also going to cringe. Okay? So again, quick recap. What are we doing again? We're going to Google impromptu speech questions, save that list of questions, and once a day practice that question. And how are we going to practice it? We're going to record ourselves, and then we're going to watch it. If you want to post it, great, right? Put that video out there. Anthony says he hates his voice. I know, Anthony, but you have to get used to it, right? You have to get used to listening to your voice. So you don't hate your voice, you're just not used to listening to your voice. And this is going to help. Record a video. If you want, by the way, if you want, record that video and just DM it to me. Okay, DM it to me and I'll let you know what I think of your speaking style, and I'll try to give you some pointers, okay? So find a question, answer it, record it, send it to me. Or if you have a mentor, send it to the mentor. Ask them, hey, what do you think about my speaking style? Did I answer that question okay? Did that make sense? What was the structure like? What was the tone like? Right? If you guys want, I'm letting you know, send it to me and I'll give you some pointers if I can. Just make sure it's not like a 10-minute video, you guys, okay? Like maybe a 1-minute video. And I'd love to give you some pointers. So let's do a quick recap. Remember, recaps are great because everybody has short attention spans. You guys, half of you guys probably already forgot about what I was talking about in the beginning, right? So what are we covering again? We are covering impromptu speech. How do you get better at it? I've given you guys 3 tips so far. 3 tips that you can start using right away. You don't need to wait for this, right? Tip number 1, always repeat the question. It gives your mind that extra few seconds it needs to formulate a better answer. Tip number 2 is to use the power of 3. That is a very, very important, right? Even if you're just going to talk about one thing, break it down into 3s. Like let's say, for example, I said, okay, what am I passionate about, right? I'm going to say I'm passionate about makeup. Here are the 3 reasons why. So still break things down into 3s. Okay. And the last tip that I gave you guys, think if it was a technique or tip. It's actually a little bit of both. But the last tip and technique that I gave you guys is to practice impromptu sessions. So you need to find a question, Google impromptu speech questions, find a question once a day, practice that question, and don't just practice in front of a mirror. Record yourself. Put your phone down in front of you, record it, and then watch it and analyze it. Okay, if you want, send me the video. I will try to analyze it for you. I'll give you a few pointers if I can. Okay, these are a few things that you guys can do right away to start getting better at impromptu speaking. And do try to get used to seeing yourself on camera. Everything is online, you guys, now. Even if we go back to the, in office and whatnot, there's still going to be a lot of stuff online. If you're on LinkedIn and you don't create content, you should be creating content. Start posting videos. Start getting used to seeing yourself online. It's going to help you be more comfortable, and you're going to realize, oh my God, I had no idea I did that. I didn't know I was constantly playing with my hair, or I didn't know I was like constantly fidgeting with my pen. You're going to see a lot of things that you don't notice you're doing. That's why it's so great to record yourself and watch it. Okay? So do all of these things. Let me know if this was helpful. If this was helpful, please say yes. Also, if you would like to learn more about impromptu speaking, let me know, because there's so many more tips, so many more things you could do. I'd love to break this out into a couple more sessions. Or if you have another suggestion for me, I love hearing you guys' suggestion. I'm here to help you. So if there's something specific you want to learn about when it comes to public speaking, let me know. What is a topic you'd like for me to cover? And I can definitely talk about that next week or the week after. Lots of people saying yes, 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 helpful. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Last thing, you guys, again, this is the last week I am doing online online sessions where I'm talking to you guys about my program. If you are interested in investing and putting in 6 weeks to become a better speaker, I'm starting a new group next week. If you are interested, then please go ahead, go to my profile, scroll down and look for my consultation call. This is the last week I'm doing consultation calls, but they are for people that are looking to invest in a program, invest in their skills, and get better at public speaking. Okay, it's the last week that I'm doing it, and I'm starting a group next week. So if you are interested, go ahead and book a free consultation with me, and let's talk about how my program can help you become a better public speaker. Okay, if you're watching the recorded session, please also just let me know any suggestions you have for the next session. Parag is saying, please do one more session if you can. Okay, on impromptu speaking. I can talk about impromptu speaking a lot, by the way. There's so many things to cover. So maybe we'll do that one again. But yes, please let me know if you have any other suggestions. Otherwise, you guys, again, every Mondays at 10:30. It was 10:15, but I think 10:30 is working out better for me. Sorry, guys. So every Mondays, 10:30 Pacific Standard Time, I do these lives. I love talking to you guys. I love answering your questions, and I love teaching you about public speaking, right? So if you are interested, join me live every Monday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay, it was great talking to you guys. I'm actually really enjoying these. I was a little bit nervous the first time, but I'm actually enjoying these. And the only thing is, I just need more topics. There's so many things I want to talk about, but I want to hear from you. What is it that you need help with? So I make sure that these are very helpful. Okay, so great talking to you guys. And it's 11. I have a call right now that I have to jump onto. So I will see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.